Brandon! Brandon! Hey, ready to go see Hardcore Henry? So they didn't install your voice box yet? So that means you can't talk during the movie. Great. Let's go. Tonight we're going to be reviewing Hardcore Henry, aka Hardcore Harry, as I've heard some people call it. So, Brandon, did you enjoy watching this 95-minute video game?
Absolutely. I thought this was awesome. I had a smile, like just this grin through the entire film. So I enjoyed it. It was a wonderful movie experience for me. What are your first thoughts on it, Eric?
Uh, Decent. You know, it's not a waste of time. The plot of this movie, why even bother? It's a RoboCop meets Commando, and that's basically the gist of the plot. It's an ambitious movie, I'll give it that. It's the first movie that I've seen that's shot entirely in first-person perspective, so it did take risk with that, I'll give it that.
This movie is a lot of fun to go see at the theater.
Yeah.
It is very thin on story, it is very thin on character development, there really isn't any of those things, but that's not what the movie's going for. And what's great about this movie is it's cut really well, and it doesn't ever really slow down. And when it does, I think the slowdowns are really just more for us as the audience to catch our breath for a second and then continue on with the movie. And the soundtrack for this movie was just awesome. Like, you know, in the theater, I'm bobbing my head in the theater. I was just, you know, like I said, it's a fun movie-going experience.
Well, I like how they kept trying to create new settings for each action scene. There was a good, action chase scene. There's a good sort of claustrophobic raid scene in there as well. There's sort of a zombie survival thing at the climax. I felt I got that kind of vibe to it. My problem was that towards the end, second half, especially towards the latter third, I just felt like I kind of repetitive. I just kind of lost interest in the movie, and by the time the gimmick just sort of wore off for me. And there's also a few scenes where it tries to get you emotionally invested and get emotional sympathy for the lead protagonist, and I'm just kind of like, really? You're trying to do this? There's really not much of a point to it. It's just kind of a waste of time for me.
And there's a couple scenes the way that it's filmed where, yeah, I mean, it's fun to go along on this ride. You're following this person in all first person. They can't speak throughout the entire movie, so everyone is speaking to them. So there's, any expository dialogue is coming from whoever's on screen to you. And the scenes that I would say that are a little annoying are there's some chase scenes in the movie where they're the foot chases. That cool car scene that you get, the car chase scene that you see in the trailer, that was shot great. It looked great. I knew what was going on. But there are like some parkour scenes in this movie where he's running down hallways and jumping up stuff, and you can't see the person in front of you. So you're like, is he still chasing him? Is he not chasing him? What hallway are we going down? Little snippets, 3 seconds and 5 seconds here where I didn't like it and I thought it was bad. But there was never like a prolonged period of time in this movie that I was like, oh, I'm bored. That just didn't happen.
Yeah, the majority of the time you can tell what's going on, which is impressive because there is a lot of shaky cam in this, and it's a first-person perspective. One thing I did like about this was the villain. I actually did like the villain. I thought it was a fun villain. It's the fact that he was funny but threatening at the same time, which is difficult to do. You don't see that too often.
And I'm glad you brought up the word funny, because this movie had great humor in it. Like very organic humor. Nothing was forced. And there's some nods and homages to other action films. They definitely make a Death Wish reference in this movie that made me laugh out loud. And just, Sharlto Copley, what a magnetic character he is on screen.
I admire the film's ambition, the risk it takes. I want to put this in the B category, but I can't. I'm going with the C+. Some good fun in it, some cool action scenes, some good humor in it.
Well, I'm going to raise you there. I'm actually going to give this movie an A-. It's really based on my enjoyment level for the film. It wasn't like I said, I was never bored during the movie, really. I loved the soundtrack. I was always into what was happening on the screen, and it was interesting. And the way that they doled the information out slowly, even though this doesn't have a strong plot and really strong characters, I really enjoyed the pace at which the movie went. I really recommend this movie, and we'll see how it does this weekend. I'm very curious to see, because as with most things in Hollywood, if this movie makes $28 million or something this weekend, you're gonna see a sequel to this movie, and then every single movie that comes out from here to the end of time will be shot in the first person.
Basically, if you like watching people play video games, you'll most likely like this movie.